Today we're going to be doing a look using the Too Faced Chocolate Bar eyeshadow palette. I've had this in my collection for a couple of years now when it first came out. I used to use it on the regular when I didn't have so many eyeshadow palettes, and it was a great formula, so I wanted to pull it out today to see if the formula still performs pretty good like it did the first day that when I received it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do today, the norm, but we'll just see what we can come up with. So we're going to start out with my favorite, the Morphe 535 brush. Let's go in with the shade Hazelnut, and it's the first matte shade on the second row. And this mirror is like so dirty while I'm holding it up. I'm sorry. Okay, so the shade Hazelnut. I'm just gonna my norm outer V up into the crease. And just blending all in the crease in circular motions. Apply a little bit more. And I'm focusing most of it on the outer V. And I love this little brush because it's so fluffy. You know, that you don't apply a whole lot of eyeshadow at one time, and it makes it easy to blend, especially when I'm like on the go. That's a nice little matte shade. Same thing for this eye, outer V, blend, and then start dragging it over to the inner corner of your eye through your crease and blend in circular motions. I'm going to apply a little more. Okay, that's a nice color to transition with. I'm going to add a little bit more in my transition area. So I'm liking that shade. So now we'll go in with, let's kind of deepen up just a little bit. Let's go on with Cherry Coral. Cordial, not coral, cordial, which is this shade next to the last shade in the palette. And it's like a deep, plummy shade. I'm going to take the same brush, my 535, and the outer V, and blending it to the middle of my lid. And I'm just adding a little more to deepen it up without using a packing brush, so I can control the blend on it. So let's do the other eye. and into the center. Okay, let's put a little bit more along this lash line, going up to my crease. Okay, just make sure it's blended really well. That's coming together pretty good. So now I'm going to take my towel and wipe off this same brush. I'm just wiping it, all the dry shadows off. And then we're going to go back in with the first shade, Walnut. This is not Walnut. I'm sorry. This is not Walnut. This is Salted Caramel. The shade name is on the top of the shadow. But that shade is correct. This is Salted Caramel. My apologies. I'm so used to the shade name being on the bottom of the the shade. That's what I was thinking about. So I just packed a little bit on the top of the outer V, and we're blending the rest over into the inner corner of the eye above the crease. And just lightly blending it what's left up to my brow bone. So I'm just still doing a little more blending, just to kind of give my whole eyeshadow look a good transition with the colors I'm placing to cover up some of this concealer that I set with this morning. I used my Age Rewind again this morning in the shade Sand Sable. Okay, so now I'm just going to blend the crease area to make sure those shadows are not harsh. Okay, we're going to add a little bit more of Cherry Cordial back to the lash line and the outer V, just to deepen it back up a little bit from what we did a blending with the other shades. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Now, it's really no fallout, which is a plus. Now, the shadows, I can say, are not as creamy as shadows that are coming out now in this particular palette. And I guess because the formula is changing so much as eyeshadows are produced. But I will say it's still a good eyeshadow palette, but it's not as soft and creamy as other shadows that I use. And like I said, I know that's probably because of how long I've had the palette, and then formulas have changed. Over the years when making eyeshadows. So I'm going to say that about that. I'm going to take my NYX glitter glue and apply it right in the center and pat it evenly over my eyelid. And the same for this eye. So now we're ready to apply some shimmers. So I think I want to go in with let's do, I am confused. Let's see. Let's go in with the shade Candid Violet. It wouldn't hurt. This is shimmer shade next to the last on the second row. And I'm going to take this the Balm flat eyeshadow brush, and this is a little synthetic fiber brush. And we're going to place some on the brush and pack it on the outer V of the lid, closer to going to the center. And I'm using this brush because I want it more precise with this shade. And the same for the other eye. Take a little bit more because I want to be built just a little bit. So now we're going to go in with, let's try another brush. We're going to take this ColourPop E9 brush, which is this pencil brush. And we're going to go in with, let's do the shade. I don't know what I'm doing, so just bear with me. We're going to go in with the, let's do this highlighting shade at the bottom. I think it's kind of like a pinkish, like some kind of like iridescent tone to it. Let's see what it looks like. It's like a shimmer. It got some type of little iridescent to it. Like you probably can't really see it on the back of my hand. But we're gonna take this ColourPop brush and use this shade in the inner corner, going into the, oh, it applies beautiful though, to blend in with the purple shade. And I'm just packing it first on my lid. That's coming together beautiful though. Pack a little bit more. And I'm just packing it in the shape of my crease. Going up my crease rather. And just stamping it. So now I'm going to take the same brush. We're going to take that same purple shade, Candid Violet, and just stamp a little more back on the outer V, going up into the crease, because we're going to blend that in a few minutes to get this harshness out of the shadows on the eye. I like that. So now I'm going to take my Sigma E47 shader crease brush, which is this brush, and we're going to blend out the crease in circular motions. And I like this brush because it's like really tiny, and it's like a really tiny flat brush, and it works well when you're blending out shades, especially like in the crease. like I'm doing now, you don't want the shadows to just go all the way up your eyelid to your brow bone. So I do like this brush for that. So now we're gonna blend the other eye with the shadows. Okay. Now we're gonna blend the center to blend this harshness out of the color so they can transition to it. And I'm just flicking the lighter shade into the deeper shade. And if you want, you can add more shadow, just a tad bit, if you feel like you need a little bit more to transition these shades together. And I'm just still doing a little more blending since I'm blending the shadows together on my lid, so they're not harsh when I get done with the makeup look. So I'm liking how that is coming together. So now we're going to take this ColourPop fluffy brush and just blend out the edges of this deep shade. Okay, so I think that should be about it. Now I'm taking this Morphe brush, just making sure everything is still transitioning with the color I started with. Okay, so now we're gonna clean up. I have my wipe with my simple micellar water, and it was really like no fallout, little to no fallout, which I did like. But the shadows are kind of, like I said, on the drier side. One might be because the palette is so old in my collection, and the other might be, like I said, because formulas have changed over the years since I've had this palette. And I'm just blending a little more. I'm just not satisfied with how the harshness kind of sitting there. I don't like what that looks. I'm just blending a little deeper than I was. Can make sure it's like really transition good. But like I was saying, I think the formula has changed. And number one, like I said, maybe because the palette's so old in my collection. But then I know some of it could be that the formula has changed as well, because it's not as creamy as other shadows in my collection. And I add a little bit more just on the tip of the brush to deepen my outer V back up just a little bit. Okay, so I think that looks about right. Maybe I should add a little more of this last shade in the palette that I placed in the inner corner to kind of make this even with the other eye, because I feel like looking at it is more on this side blended than the other eye. And I'm doing way more than what I thought I was going to do this morning, because I was supposed to have been done with this eyeshadow look like 5 minutes ago. Okay, now I think that should do it. That's a little bit better. Yeah. So I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit closer. So this is what I came up with using the Too Faced Chocolate Bar Palette. So I do like the way the eye look turned out. Like I said, the formula is kind of like a bit iffy for me because it's dry. But I'm going to go off camera, finish the rest of my face, and I'll be back to show you guys my final look. Welcome back. This is the final look. To finish the look, all I did was bronze with the Ace Boutte, which I pulled out and put in my Shop My Stash basket. And when I do another one, I may keep it out because this is a really, really good bronzing palette that I actually forgot I had. And it performs really, really good. Then I continued with my blush balm by Carity. And this is the Burgundy Blast. And the middle shade, which is a mauve rose type blush. And it's in the shade Sumptuous. For my eyelashes today, I applied the Flutter Lashes in the style Captivating. This is what the packaging looks like. I think they still sell these on their website. They're really, really light. I like how they give a good bold look, but it's a light lash. You can't even feel the lash band on your eyes. So that's really, really good. Then for my lips, I used the Lorac Duchess lip liner, and I've been using this all week, and I've been loving this. I started, I think, last week using it, and this is a really, really nice formula for a lip liner, and it matches the color of my lips, so I'm really liking this. And then for my gloss today, I used the ColourPop Luxie Gloss in this shade here. I don't see a shade on the back of it. Yeah. Well, I just can't see it. Peace Lily. That's the name of the shade. So that completed my look. And for my highlighter, I used my Anastasia Amrezy highlighter, which I put in my Shop My Stash as well. So I've been loving using this highlighter. I highlighted the inner corners and then my nose and my cupid's bow. So that finished the look. I hope you guys like the way this look turned out. If you have any suggestions, drop them down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts if you own this palette. Let me know your thoughts on it. How did it perform for you? Because like I said, I believe it performed for me the way it did. I think, number one, I think because it's been in my collection for quite some time. And then, number two, I think the formula may, you know what, all these different formulas coming out now. They're more creamier, more pigmented. And this is more on the kind of like drier side. So I'm assuming it's probably because of how long I've had it. But if you have this palette in your collection, please let me know your thoughts on it. If you still own it, if you still use it, pull it out. Let me know your thoughts on it. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.